Merry Christmas, fantasy managers, and welcome to another video from myself, Will, and fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. We've got a lot to get through this week. We're going to be having a look at my team, my transfer plans, my thoughts over Christmas. Who am I looking to bring in? Who am I looking to ditch? We're going to be looking at big hitters. So we've got Salah, Kane, Sterling, Aguero, Sane, Aubameyang. How do we fit all these guys in? Which ones should we be fitting in? Who's the best options? Who should we be bringing in? Who should we be ditching? Having a look at the upcoming fixture list, have a look at comparisons, also at the budget end of the scale, players like Ings, have a look at captaincy, and a general bit of a Christmas roundup from the hub as well. So got a lot to get through, let's get to it. Okay, so having a quick look at my team, last week was an absolute shocker. Just the 42 points, big hitters up front, Kane and Aubameyang not doing the business, Son benched, Sterling bench but came on, got a goal, which was nice. Success, made the wrong call there, should have gone with Wan-Bissaka. Laporte not doing the business. City clean sheet seems to have dried up a little bit, so that's a bit of a concern. Fabianski was probably the highlight of my week, as with Doherty also given a bit of a return. But overall, it was a really bad week. Dropped from 16,000 to 24,000, so a pretty nasty drop. But you know, my aim for Christmas, to get to Christmas, is to get to Christmas at around the 100,000 mark. And if I can get to Christmas about 100,000 mark, I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to get top 10,000 by the end of the year. You know, the way I play, and you know, building that team value at the start of the season and setting yourself up, and then having all the, you know, the second half of the season in many ways is easier because you've got a lot more data to work from. You understand how all the good players are, and generally my second half of the season is a lot better. So despite a bad week, you know, looking at the first half of the season as a whole, I'm pretty happy with the rank of 24,000, and going to try and push on for there and get that top 10,000 spot. I'm not going to dwell too much on last week. It was a bad one, but hopefully we can push on. And I'm not too despondent with my team. I think my team's in fairly good nick. You know, there's a few things I can change, what I'm going to talk about later. But I've got 2 free transfers, so got the flexibility to do that as well. So I thought I'd just pull my season history up here just to illustrate a point that if you're having a bad season, you're really low down at this stage. Maybe you're outside the top 100,000, maybe you're outside the top 500,000, maybe you're outside the top million. And I don't think that is necessarily a reason to panic. And you know, I've been in situations where we had a really, really bad start to the season, and in actual fact, in the 2013-2014 season there, finished 753rd. So top 1,000 finish, but at Christmas time I was outside the top million. So you can there's still a lot of game weeks to make up. There's still a lot of points to play. And I did that I didn't actually look for differentials. I played my game and made smart moves. And I would encourage you that if you're low down in the rankings, then make those moves, make those smart plays. So if you look at the the highest owned player for a defender, midfielder, and a forward, you've got Alonso on 45%, Salah on 36%, and Aubameyang on another 36%. So those are the 3 highest owned players in the game. And if you owned all 3 of those players, so technically the most template 3 players that you can get, and you did some simple math. Now I know that, you know, there are things like independence of events that you got to take into consideration, and also that, you know, people higher up have more similar teams. But just bear with me. If you take that as an example, and you look at those 3 highest owned players, and if you times those together, then you get 6%. So that's saying that roughly, you know, there are some caveats to this, but roughly 6% of people own all 3 of those players. So if you own the 3 most template players and they all do well, you've got a rank boost over 94% of other FPL managers by just owning the top 3 most owned players. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that to rise the ranks, you don't need to look for differentials. Differentials are good, don't get me wrong. You know, if you hit that captaincy that nobody else owns, then you're going to absolutely fly up. But you don't need them to really rise the ranks. And I think that's important this stage of the year, because I see a lot of managers who are low down and they're looking for differentials constantly, and you don't need it to rise the ranks. And actually it can be detrimental. So you look for those differentials and you don't hit them, and the players which you would have brought in if you weren't looking for the differentials actually do better. So just a little word of warning there, and hopefully that will help you guys out a little bit. So moving on to community questions then, we had a lot of questions about premium assets, which I'm going to come to in a bit, but I thought I'd also look at the budget end of the scale to start with. So around Danny Ings. So there's a lot of questions around Danny Ings, and I just picked out this one because of the name that asks the question. But this one asks, is Ings better than Kane? So looking at the comparison tool, and it's pretty bad reading for Kane, to be honest. I mean, he doesn't compare well to Ings, and he's a hell of a lot more expensive. I've got Kane. I think Ings is a really good option, and I think now is the time to buy him. He's got 2 good fixtures, then he's got 2 bad ones. But you know, he's one of those players which at that price point you can bench, and I'm personally looking to bring him in. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do it for Kane or possibly Aubameyang. I'll come to that a little bit later and my thoughts around that. But yes, I think Ings is a great option. He's got good underlying numbers. He seems to be preferred by the new Southampton manager, and he fits his style of play. So yes, I think Ings is a good option, and he's someone I'm looking to bring into my team. So Wolf of FPL Wall Street asks, is it Sergio Aguero time? He potentially could explode. You know, he's got Crystal Palace this weekend. Is he going to start? I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, he started midweek. He might be benched, you know, to ease him back in. And that's really going to be my worry, because, you know, Jesus is playing well now, and, you know, he scored, got a brace last weekend. Hopefully, you know, he said he's got his confidence back, and that's going to, you know, probably impact Aguero's game time a little bit, especially over Christmas, especially from him coming back from injury. So for me personally, I'm not looking at Aguero, but, you know, it's Sergio Aguero, and he definitely could do well, and Man City have the fixtures. Okay, so having a look at another couple of big hitters. A lot of people asking about Sane, a lot of people asking about Hazard. And these are 2 players that I'm looking to get in. I got rid of Hazard. Hazard's such a frustrating player to, and I never seem to have him for his points. But at the moment, he's got fixtures, he's got form, he's on penalties, he's got a slight knock, so he's flagged at the moment. So again, another one to pay attention to in the press conferences. But I think he'll be fine. I think he'll come back and he'll start at the weekend. Leicester, a fairly good defence. I don't think that's a massively good fixture for him. But overall, he's got a really good run of fixtures over Christmas. So is Sane, and Sane's been doing the business, and both of them look really, really good options. And I will be bringing one of them in this week, and I'm not sure which one at the moment, and it slightly depends on whether I get rid of Kane or whether I get rid of Aubameyang. But both of those are I'm looking at as potential transfer targets. So yeah, both of those are good shouts. I probably slightly prefer Hazard just because he's you know, more likely to get the minutes over Christmas, and he's on penalties, and he seems pretty essential to that team. But you know, Sane, I might bring him in this week, and he's probably slightly better value for money. So it's a tough call between the 2 of them, but both of them looking really, really nice options. And then, you know, you've got players like Salah as well. Liverpool were a bit of a tough run of fixtures. Wolves away this week for Salah. A lot of people looking at Salah to one of these 2, and I actually think that's probably a good move, especially for the savings that you'd make. You know, in an ideal world, you would have all of, you know, the Salahs and the Kanes and the Hazard and the Sanes, but you just can't fit them in, so you've got to make choices. And you know, out of those 3, my preference is you know, for certainly for the midfield, if I could choose 3 premium big hitters, it would be Hazard, it would be Sane, and it would be Sterling. Sterling is, as we come to captaincy later, he's a good captaincy shout this week. And I think that those three are probably the three big picks in midfield. And looking a little bit more generally and broadly, there does seem to be a movement away from, the premium striker assets to the midfielders, and that's something I'm looking at shifting. I'm looking at taking money out of the strike force, the likes of Kane and Aubameyang, and downgrading them and bolstering that midfield. It's tough though at the moment because you've got Aubameyang and Kane both have really, really good fixtures, and you just know that as soon as you take them out, they're gonna score a brace or something. So it's not easy, but that's FPL. You've got to make difficult decisions. And so one of the things that when I'm trying to make a transfer that I try to ignore is the potential for loss. So again, I talked a little bit about psychological biases, and another one is fear of loss. So you don't want to, it's almost more painful to lose something than it is to gain something. So what am I trying to say there? I'm trying to say that what I try and do is look at it as if if I were to have a wild card, who would I have? I'd probably have Hazard, for example, over Kane. And if I can make that transfer for free, then it makes sense. Kane potentially is going to really hurt me, but at the same time, I think Hazard is the better option. Then I should go for him. So these are the type of really tough decisions we have to make. And again, I'm not saying I'm going to do that move. I actually think that I might hang on to Kane for at least the next couple. Sterling, Sané and Hazard are my top three premium picks. Salah hasn't got the fixtures. He has got form, but and he will pick up points over Christmas. I've got no doubt about that. But in terms of value, he's not quite offering the value, and he hasn't got too many good captaincy option days. Next week is an exception. I think next week I'd prefer to have Kane or Salah because both of them are looking quite strong for captaincy option next week. City and Chelsea have an away match, obviously. So that's something to consider. So having a quick look at captaincy, I put this poll up literally 9 minutes ago on Fantasy Football Hub Twitter. So it's only had 156 votes. So I expect this to change a little bit, but often it does actually stay fairly steady, and I expect that Sterling's going to be leading the way. For me, it is going to be Sterling. He's a fairly straightforward, obvious pick. I think he will start. He was benched midweek. Sané's another good shout. I think Sterling overall, he's slightly better option than Sané. Aubameyang, as I mentioned, I think there's a chance that he could be benched this week. Having a quick look at my team then, and I mentioned briefly, the type of moves that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking at the moment to downgrade Aubameyang or Kane. I'm not quite sure which one yet. Leaning towards Aubameyang actually. At the start of the week it was going to be Kane, but with Aubameyang getting the minutes midweek and Kane being benched, then that has me leaning one way. So it'll be one of those two down to Ings, and then I'm going to move Stevens up to either Hazard or Sané. Now, I can't afford Hazard if I do Aubameyang down to Ings, so it's looking like it will be Sané that I'm bringing in. And but Hazard is a player that I really want, and I've got potentially a couple of future plans to bring him in. Doing that also allows me to leave Kane in for the Bournemouth at home fixture next week, where he will be my captain. So I think that's probably where I'm leaning, but again, I'm going to pay a really close attention to the press conferences. But otherwise, next week, the week after, I think on the budget end of the scale, again, looking at those defenders, had a couple of community questions that were asking me, what are the best defenders from under 5 to bring in. Doherty, I think, is obviously, he's been banging out the results. But the one I'm looking at is Dean from Everton, the Everton left back. His numbers are insane. I did look at him a few weeks ago when I was getting Laporte in, and I chose to go with Laporte, and I think that's probably the wrong call. at the time City were getting lots of clean sheets, and I still think they will do over Christmas. But Dean, he's probably the next move I'm going to make, and downgrading Laporte also brings a bit more funds into midfield that I could use. So that's probably my transfer for next week. So I want to finish by just saying a massive thank you firstly to everyone who watches this video. I've been blown away by the support for the series. I only started this a few weeks ago, and it seems like a really good way of getting information across to you guys, and you seem to be enjoying it. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. I'd also like to say a massive thank you, a massive thank you to every single one of you who's become a member on Fantasy Football Hub. The membership is growing rapidly, and people really do seem to be enjoying the content. And the site simply wouldn't be possible. I wouldn't be doing these videos. Nothing would be possible if it wasn't out for those members. So really appreciate your support in particular. And I'm glad to see that many of you guys are finding a lot of benefit at the membership area. So over Christmas, I'm not going to be doing any more of these videos. I'm going to take a break and recharge the batteries. There will be the odd article coming up on the hub, although quite a few of the contributors say that they're going to take a little bit of a break as well. So I will be on the hub. I'll be on Twitter. I'll be doing my team. So try and catch me on there. So next year is I've got some news, but I can't quite release it just yet. But needless to say, I think the start of next season is going to be absolutely massive for the hub. I started the hub about 18 months ago, and I've been, the site's gone from strength to strength, and we've got a hell of a lot planned for next year. We've got some really big news I can't tell you about just yet, but I'll keep you informed, and as soon as I can tell you about that news, I will do. And but needless to say, next year's going to be a really big one for the hub, and I'm really excited about it. And I'll be doing more of these videos for FPL, and also hopefully for Sky, especially with Dan Cox. And I'm going to be trying to in the new year, I'm going to be trying to bring on guests as well, like Matthew Jones and Andrew, and hopefully a few of the other hub contributors if they're keen to come on, because we've got a lot of good players and good contributors to the hub that have got interesting thoughts. So I'm going to hopefully be bringing some of them on in the start of the new year. There's a small chance I might do a cheeky video halfway through, but I'm going to say I'm not going to do that. And if I do, then it will be a bonus rather than say I do and then I don't end up doing it. But there's a chance I might do a short video. But otherwise, hope you guys have a really great Christmas. And hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It helps me out. And go check out the site. Got lots of articles coming out today and tomorrow. And also all the membership tools. I put a link to the description for all the ones I've gone through today. The comparison tool, if you want to go check that out. And, the Fixture Ticker and all the usual ones. But it's a bye for me. And good luck this game week and good luck over Christmas.